Did you know that most billionaires today follow the exact same hidden pattern to build their empires? It's not a coincidence. It all goes back to one man. John D. Rockefeller once said that the ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar or coffee, and he would pay more for that ability than for any other under the sun. But his real secret wasn't just dealing with people. It was dealing with money in a way that was revolutionary for his time. Imagine for a second that you could earn any amount of money you wished for. It sounds like a dream, right? But today, I am going to destroy the myth that this is impossible. We are going to travel back in time to analyze the life of the world's first dollar billionaire. When Rockefeller died in 1937, his fortune was estimated at $1.4 billion. Now, you might think, that's not much compared to today. But wait, in today's economy, adjusted for inflation, that would be over $318 billion. For comparison, Elon Musk's fluctuating wealth often sits around $200 billion. Rockefeller wasn't just rich, he was wealthy on a level we can barely comprehend. If you are new here, welcome to the channel. If you dream of financial freedom, make sure to subscribe right now. Now, let's dig into the 4 lost skills that built this empire. To understand Rockefeller, we have to look at where he started. He wasn't born in a palace. He grew up in a modest family. His father was a traveling salesman, a unique character we will talk about later, who was often absent. This left his mother to manage the household on a tight budget. It was here, in this scarcity, that Rockefeller learned his first and most important skill: extreme tracking. At the age of 7, while other children were playing, young John was already doing business. He worked on a neighbor's farm, digging potatoes and raising rabbits to sell. But he didn't just pocket the cash. Following his mother's strict advice, he bought a small notebook. He called it Ledger A. In this book, he recorded every single penny. If he earned 5 cents, he wrote it down. If he spent 1 cent on candy, he wrote it down. This wasn't just about being stingy, it was about data. He kept these ledgers until the day he died at age 97. He treated his personal finances like a corporation before he even owned a suit. Later, when he entered the workforce, he skipped university and took accounting courses. When he got his first job as an assistant bookkeeper, his starting salary was just $17 a month. Most people hated the end-of-month accounting periods. It was tedious, boring work. But Rockefeller? His eyes lit up. He loved the precision. He realized that if you control the pennies, the millions take care of themselves. This is a lesson for us today. Use the modern tools you have. You have apps, spreadsheets, and banking software. If Rockefeller could track every cent with a pencil and paper in the 1800s, you have no excuse not to know where your money is going today. Now, let's move to the second skill, which contradicts everything your parents likely told you. This is the art of good debt. Most ordinary people are terrified of debt. They see it as a chain. Entrepreneurs like Rockefeller see it as a lever. If Rockefeller had waited until he saved enough money to start his first business, he would have died an employee. He understood that time is more valuable than interest payments. When he started his first serious venture, a logistics and produce company, he had saved some money, but not enough. He needed $2,000 capital. He had about $800. So what did he do? He borrowed the rest. $1,200 came from his own father. And here is the kicker. His father charged him 10% interest per year. His own dad. But John took the deal. Why? Because he knew the business would generate a return higher than 10%. This is the fundamental difference between being poor and being rich. Poor people borrow money to buy things that lose value: cars, clothes, consumer goods. Wealthy people borrow money to buy assets that generate cash flow. Throughout his career, Rockefeller was constantly borrowing. Even when he had his own cash, he often kept it in reserve and used investors' money to expand. He wasn't afraid of owing money. He was only afraid of not growing fast enough. This leads us directly to the third skill, which allowed him to borrow so much money: the reliability protocol. You might wonder, how does a young man get banks to lend him millions? It wasn't just charm. It was his obsession with fulfilling obligations. Rockefeller's father was an eccentric man. He would sometimes storm into John's office and demand his loan repayment immediately, right then and there, even if it wasn't due yet. He said he did it to toughen the boy up. Rockefeller never complained. He always had a reserve. He always paid. This created a psychological effect on everyone around him. In his memoir, How I Made $500 Million, he recalls the stress of these moments. But this stress forged a diamond-hard reputation. Soon, bankers began to whisper about him. That Rockefeller kid? He pays. Over time, banks stopped asking for collateral. They would literally empty their safes for him on his word alone. In the financial world, your credit score and your reputation are your most valuable assets. If you say you will pay on Tuesday and you pay on Wednesday, you have failed. Rockefeller paid on Monday. That is why he could mobilize millions of dollars instantly to crush his competition while they were still filling out paperwork. And finally, the fourth skill, calculated risk and innovation. Many people think tycoons are gamblers. They are not. They are risk managers. Rockefeller didn't just throw money at problems, he analyzed the inefficiencies. Let's look at the oil industry in the 1860s. It was the Wild West. People were drilling for oil, putting it in wooden barrels, and loading them onto horse-drawn wagons to take to the train station. It was a mess. The barrels leaked, the horses were slow, the cost was astronomical. Rockefeller looked at this and saw a math problem. He realized that shipping oil in barrels was throwing money away. So he decided to transport oil in large tanks on trains, the precursor to modern tank cars. But the railroad didn't have these cars, so Rockefeller built them himself. He invested his own capital to build the infrastructure. His partners thought he was crazy. They said, "John, this is too risky. What if the oil runs dry?" Rockefeller's response was simple. "I will take the risk. I will pay for the stations and the cars, but in exchange, I want a discount on the shipping rates." The railroads agreed. Why wouldn't they? They got free infrastructure. But this gave Rockefeller a secret weapon. Because he could ship oil cheaper than anyone else, he could sell it cheaper than anyone else and still make a profit. One by one, his competitors went bankrupt or sold their companies to him. He didn't win because he was lucky. He won because he fixed the inefficiency that everyone else was ignoring. Later, when the railroads tried to squeeze him, he did it again. He built massive pipelines to move oil across the country, bypassing the trains entirely. He always controlled the means of distribution. So, what does this mean for you? You might not be building an oil refinery, but the principles remain unchanged. First, you must respect the ledger. Track your finances with obsessive detail. Second, stop fearing debt. Learn the difference between destructive debt and constructive leverage. Third, guard your reputation with your life. Your word must be unbreakable. And fourth, look for inefficiencies in your work or business. Where is the waste? If you can fix the waste, you can keep the profit. Rockefeller's methods were ruthless, yes, but they were also brilliantly rational. He proved that wealth isn't a magical event. It's an engineering process. If you want to continue your education on how money really works, and you don't want to miss our next deep dive into the minds of the wealthy, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Let me know in the comments, which of Rockefeller's habits do you find the hardest to follow? I'll see you in the next video.